This little rabbit can only move its two hands, yet its IQ exceeds 180. That's because it can use drumming to transmit Morse code, guiding its owner to find hidden dirt around the house. But being this rabbit's owner comes at a price. You have to suffer a nosebleed every day, cover your eyes with both hands and remain motionless, and go into hibernation for over 15 hours. During this time, it cannot hear any sounds and cannot be woken up. But the girl's uncle didn't buy into any of this. He thought the girl was simply mentally ill, so he hired a man to be her caregiver, to prevent the man from taking advantage of the situation. He came up with a brilliant idea, to put the man in a jacket with a lock. Once locked, the jacket couldn't be taken off. One end of the chain was locked to his back, and the other end was locked in the basement. The chain was just long enough to reach the door of the girl's room. At first, Mike did find it a bit uncomfortable. When he went to the bathroom, he realized he couldn't reach the toilet, so he decided to just stand at the door and relieve himself. But then he unexpectedly discovered that the girl had a little dog. The dog was also tied up with a rope. This scene made Mike can't help but ponder the meaning of life, until the light behind him went out. Then someone started tugging on his chain. Mike pushed open the door to see if the girl was playing a prank on him, but she hadn't moved an inch. Confused, Mike went back to his room to sleep, but as soon as he lay down, he heard a thud. The painting on the wall had fallen. The woman in the painting looked strange, so Mike turned it away. But the moment he got back into bed, the painting turned back around. Mike was puzzled, so he turned the painting back again, and stared at it from his bed, until he was sure it wouldn't move anymore, then closed his eyes. But immediately afterward, the painting fell to the floor on its own, and the woman in the painting now looked angry, and was emitting strange, eerie sounds. Mike was so scared he moved to the living room, and planned to sleep in a chair. But as soon as he closed his eyes, the rabbit started drumming. He tried to talk to the rabbit. The rabbit responded immediately, but Mike didn't realize it was Morse code. After asking a few questions, he sensed the rabbit was trying to tell him to go to the basement. At first, Mike refused because he'd always been afraid of the dark, but the rabbit kept drumming, looking very anxious, and as it drummed, the basement door swung open. Mike had no choice but to take the rabbit down to the basement. There, he spotted a strange hole. He decided to find out what was inside, so he grabbed a flashlight and shone it into the hole. It turned out to be a woman's smiling face. He immediately thought to call the police. The phone was right there, but the chain wasn't long enough. By this point, he was convinced the girl was the killer, so he locked the door from the inside. Then, reaching through the wall, he pulled the phone toward him, but he didn't know the girl had just woken up. She pounced on him and snapped his finger. However, he soon realized that the key to unlocking the jacket might be the woman's necklace, so he went back to the basement and reached through the hole again. After pulling the necklace off, he tried it and sure enough, it opened the jacket. But at that very moment, the power went out throughout the entire house. Then he heard the woman crying. Terrified, Mike rushed to the dock to escape, but the only boat on the island had already been rowed away. It was too cold outside, so he had no choice but to go back inside. But the girl was waiting for him in the living room. Luckily, she was in hibernation at that moment. Mike, who had been shivering, suddenly had a brainwave. He put the coat on the girl, then went to the bedroom to make a call, but he found the phone line had already been cut. Just as he was wondering what to do next, the girl suddenly woke up again, holding a crossbow. Through the small hole, she shot an arrow that hit him in the leg. Mike had no choice but to hide in the bathroom again. He decided to play for time with the girl, waiting until she went back into hibernation before making his move. But just then, a strange door opened. His instinct told him it was a secret escape passage, but he soon realized the woman was watching him. Mike quickly crawled in a different direction, and finally found a staircase. But after going down, he discovered that this place was actually the woman's residence. So he took off his hat, and pulled it right over the woman's head. Then Mike started sawing through the wooden plank, but before long, a hole was torn in the hat. Mike was so scared he didn't know what to do. Just then, the girl came down to the basement, and reached her hand right in. Mike thought she was just checking to see if he was there, but upon closer look, she was actually there to retrieve the crossbow. Mike held his breath. He had to wait until the girl left before he could get out. But just then, her uncle returned. From their conversation, Mike finally realized that the woman was actually the girl's mother. In order to inherit the island, her uncle had not only plotted to kill her, but had also kept the girl imprisoned in this place. The uncle quickly spotted Mike hiding in the hole, but he never expected that the girl would suddenly shoot an arrow at him from behind, and then lock the basement door. The uncle began urging Mike to join him in confronting the girl, having already made preparations to silence him. But before long, Mike's voice came over the walkie-talkie. Mike had already made his way back upstairs through the secret passage. But who was the person sawing through the wooden planks now? The uncle backed into a corner in fear. However, he had now figured out why the girl had been kept alive and locked up here, because only then could her mother rest in peace. At the end of the story, the girl watched Mike leave. Although Mike didn't get paid, the guy did steal their little dog.